And so, here we go. Good morning to you, Grenada, and the rest of the world. It's a Friday morning, end of another week. Yes, sir. I'm George Grant. Thank you for joining us for today's edition of Good Day Grenada. Today happens to be the 5th day of July. Uh, Carnival's approaching. Yeah. Folks, this is going to be one of those days when we do have Mr. Pitt joining us. He's going to be coming your way at about 9:30 this morning, and we're looking forward to that. Off the cuff, Brian Pitt is going to be with us. But before we get to that, we do have a friendly reminder. Of course, I'm going through the rundown here. We do have a friendly reminder to you folks, especially those of you who are running businesses, large or small, about the taxes that are due to the government of Grenada this month. Yeah, we're going to take a look at that. And I'm sure you heard that there's a CARICOM conference currently underway. Well, with CARICOM Day now gone, what is CARICOM all about? The CARICOM Secretariat sent me a short video. It's only about, I think, about 4.5 minutes or so in length yesterday, in which the Secretary General of CARICOM, Erwin LaRock, delivered an address to commemorate CARICOM Day. And we're going to run that by you. He speaks a little bit about CARICOM, and we'll share that with you. And of course, we do have the national report coming your way as well. So there goes your lineup. And of course, at about 9:30 this morning, and I don't expect him to be he usually shows up at about 10 after 9, quarter after 9. Well, last week we agreed that because he usually has to sit there and wait until we're through with the national report, that he's not going to show up this morning until about 9:30. So don't expect me to be popping him up there and say, hey, there he is. He's going to be with you just a wee bit. One way or another, man, we're looking forward to what this guy has to say. In fact, we do every Friday morning. All right? Now, let's get down to brass tacks. Despite the booming economy, which we supposedly have here in Grenada, Inland Revenue wants you to remember that there are certain tax obligations that you will need to meet this month. And they've asked me to issue a reminder to you. So, I hope you have a little pen and paper handy, because I'm going to share those with you right now. Today happens to be the 5th of July, and on the 8th, you will need to pay your pay, P-A-Y-E. That's pay as you earn, and your withholding tax. That's due on the 8th. On the 10th, you'll need to pay your gaming tax. For those of you who are running these little gaming outlets, boy, they are all over the place these days. All over the place. It's something I never thought I would see in this country. But I have. Times change, I would imagine. Times change. Then on the 22nd, you will need to pay your value added tax. Remember, if the 22nd sounds like a strange date, not really. It's just that the value added tax is usually routinely due on the 20th of the month. But if the 20th falls on a Saturday, a Sunday, or a public holiday, you have a couple extra days, right? So not only is your VAT, value added tax, due on that day, but your excise tax is due and payable on the 22nd of this month. On the 29th, you will be required to pay your corporate income tax, CIT, if you will, and the returns due for business with fiscal year ending 30th of April of this year. All right? And finally, on the 31st, your personal income tax will be due and payable. Ooh. Thank God I haven't reached that category yet. As well as corporation income tax and annual stamp tax installments. They're all due and payable on the 31st. That's the final day of this month. In addition to all those dates, Inland Revenue is urging you to pay all taxes on time in order to avoid having to pay penalties and interest. Okay. Payments may be made at the Ministry of Finance, any district revenue office, or via wire transfer. For those of you out there in the diaspora, yeah, you can wire your stuff. I don't know, I would imagine Western Union or whatever. If you'd like some additional information, in addition to what I've told you about this morning, you may contact the Public Relations Officer, a young lady by the name of Karen Moraine Alexander. And she may be reached at 435-6945 or 56. No, that's 46. So, okay, the number again. 435-6945 or 46. Or 435-1905. So, that's it for Inland Revenue. Done my part. Now, let me take a look here before I move on to the next little bit about CARICOM. Fitzroy is saying good morning to you folks, and Benedict and his fantastic Friday. Good morning, I got a feeling Anthea's on vacation. She ain't telling me, but I got a feeling she's on vacation. Sean out there in the Azores is saying good morning and sending his blessings. And so is Kipling, as always. John Bruno is also saying good morning to you folks. Now, as CARICOM commemorated its 46th anniversary yesterday. Can you imagine? 46 years old. Almost as old as I am. Secretary General Erwin LaRocque took advantage of the opportunity to remind nationals of the CARICOM community about its organization, its origins. Not only that, talked a bit about their goals and their accomplishments. I want to share that with you. It runs about 4.5 minutes. Check this out.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to address you on the occasion of the observance of CARICOM Day 2019, organized by the permanent representatives of member states of the Caribbean Community to the United Nations. It has been 46 years since the leaders of our then 4 independent CARICOM states, Barbados, Guyana, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago, signed the Treaty of Chaguaramas on the 4th of July 1973, establishing the Caribbean Community as a regional integration movement. Since then, successive CARICOM states have joined the community, bringing our membership to 15 states and 5 associate members, now governed by the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas. As a community of small island and low-lying coastal developing states, SIDS, CARICOM has demonstrated its deep commitment to the United Nations and to multilateralism for bringing stability and certainty to our world. Each of our member states has joined the United Nations upon independence. The four main pillars upon which our community is built, namely economic integration, foreign policy coordination, human and social development, and security cooperation, accord with the United Nations four pillars: peace and security, human rights, the rule of law, and development. CARICOM member states have always been key proactive participants in addressing the wide range of issues on the United Nations agenda and in making their unique contributions to confronting global problems with global solutions. These challenges have included climate change, pandemic diseases such as HIV/AIDS and NCDs, and economic and social development, including the implementation of Agenda 2030. Just recently, one of our member states, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, became the smallest state ever elected to the United Nations Security Council. The United Nations is also an organization to which SIDS, such as ours, bring our vulnerability challenges. We have seen the United Nations and its specialized agencies take up challenges of SIDS. For example, when Hurricanes Irma and Maria struck our region in 2017 and devastated and adversely impacted several countries, the United Nations stood with us and was speedy in its response to support the affected countries. There is no greater testimony to this than the visit of Secretary General Antonio Guterres to the affected states immediately after the disaster. Our joint initiatives to build more resilient states by building back better further our shared objective of a sustainable future for the region. Indeed, we have built constructive partnerships within the United Nations system in working towards shared goals. At this time, we are planning the 10th UN CARICOM meeting to be held in Guyana in July. We also look forward to a fruitful and profoundly successful high-level meeting on the Samoa Pathway Midterm Review during the high-level week at the UN in September, as the General Assembly reviews the progress made, lessons learned, and constraints encountered in addressing the priorities of SIDS, and agree on what needs to be done to further address their vulnerabilities. We further look forward to a concise, action-oriented, and intergovernmentally agreed political declaration as the outcome of the high-level review. As the United Nations approaches its watershed 75th anniversary in 2020 and prepares for a number of high-level meetings, we in CARICOM ready ourselves to collaborate in addressing issues of particular importance to SIDS. These include climate change, oceans, unsustainable debt, access to concessional financing, the middle income trap, and NCDs, to name a few. It is natural, therefore, that our celebration of CARICOM Day, the day on which we in CARICOM celebrate and recognize developments in the region, should also find expression at the United Nations. I thank you all for sharing this auspicious day with us and for your kind attention.
Hello, I'm here, yeah. Erwin LaRocque, who is the Secretary General of the CARICOM, and that's his address to commemorate the 46th anniversary of CARICOM, which was commemorated yesterday. All right. I see that we've now been joined by Auntie Margaret. Good morning, Mags. Hope you're doing okay, girl. And it's 14 minutes after the hour now. We're going to take a little break, and we shall return with the National Report.
For business owners, it's vital that they make efficient use of energy resources. So we're here today to show how GRENLEC supports their success. To energize our nation's businesses, GRENLEC works closely with them to ensure a positive impact on customer satisfaction, economic development, and the continued growth of our nation. It's all part of the commitment the GRENLEC team makes to business owners and residential customers every day.
GRENLEC, energizing our Grenada. This summer, make your dreams a reality with a Co-op Bank Summer Sizzle loan. Get up to $20,000 and qualify for a chance to win a staycation at Silver Sands. Go on a vacation. Enjoy the carnival season. Have your dream wedding or make home improvements. Make this summer sizzle with everything you want it to be. Visit your nearest retail banking unit for more details. Special terms and conditions apply. Welcome home.
Conveniently located in the Grandstand Shopping Center, for over 40 years, Food Fair has provided quality service at affordable prices. Now, grocery shopping is made easier and more convenient from the Food Fair web store.
Hey, babe. Listen now, I need you to go down to Food Fair to get some groceries.
All right, no problem. Right away.
Thanks, babe. What are you doing? You're supposed to be going Food Fair to get a grocery, man.
I am, but didn't you know you can order your groceries online from the Food Fair web store?
Are you serious?
Of course. All you have to do is just to log on to www.foodfair.gd with credit card in hand, and with an order of $100 or more, Food Fair Grenada will deliver up to 3 miles away. And you don't even have to worry about your information, you know. Their safety measures are excellent.
So hold on. You just order online and Food Fair will deliver to you?
Yep,
Oh, baby, better hurry up and order, man.
I already did. They should be here any minute now.
Enjoy easy online shopping anytime from your home or office from the Food Fair web store. Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
CARICOM's Climate Recovery Resilient Facility received the endorsement of UN Secretary General. We'll have details to this story and more in the national report. With the details to the news for Thursday, July 4th, I am Rikisha St. Louis. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has commended the leaders of CARICOM for their bold vision to make the Caribbean the world's first climate resilient zone. Mr. Guterres, who addressed the opening of the 40th regular meeting of CARICOM heads of government in St. Lucia on Wednesday, endorsed the creation of a Caribbean Climate Recovery Resilient Facility, which he says should be fully supported.
When fully functional, this facility will provide a regionally indigenous mechanism for sourcing talent, experience, and financial solutions to support CARICOM members to build resilient communities and nations.
With respect to a new model of economic development, Mr. Guterres noted that island nations in the Caribbean are fast becoming influential test beds for innovative climate action, such as investing in decentralized renewable energy. On the subject of climate change, the UN Secretary General called for collective advocacy to ensure that global temperature rise does not go beyond 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels.
Years of hard-won development gains were destroyed in Barbuda and Dominica in only a couple of days. And this was not the first time that the Caribbean has faced such devastation and loss, and the immense challenge of rebuilding while safeguarding development achievements. Hurricanes Ivan and Thomas, and the many others that came before Irma and Maria, are still etched in the memories of Caribbean people.
Continuing with news from the recent heads of government meeting, incoming CARICOM chairman, St. Lucia's Prime Minister Honorable Alan Chastney, is calling on his CARICOM colleagues to regain the momentum for the regional integration process if they are to win back the confidence of the Caribbean people that something life-changing will result from their meetings. Addressing the 40th regular meeting of CARICOM heads in St. Lucia on Wednesday, Mr. Chastney said there is need to reflect on the relevance of CARICOM at this time. He's concerned that they are losing competitiveness to other regions due to the high cost and inefficiency of their governance, and because they are not maximizing the opportunities in areas such as the creative industries, sports, tourism, natural resources, and the blue economy.
Let us not put off for tomorrow what we must do today. How much longer must we ponder the need for a stronger regional security force? Do we really expect criminals to respect our individual sovereignty? We already took steps to have a regional court. Let's finish the job. How many more studies do we need to confirm the justification for regional health care? The lack of an effective regional transportation policy is crippling our economies. The impact of de-risking and the withdrawal of international banks have created the urgent need for greater integration of our central banks and continued harmonization of our financial regulations.
This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break.
Get ready for a long, hot summer and the event you really don't want to miss. The 11th Annual Grenadian Heritage Day, Saturday, 6th of July, at the Old Lyonian Sports and Social Club, Pinnerview, Harrow, Middlesex, HA1 4QF, from 1 in the afternoon till 7:30 in the evening. Hosted by the Grenada High Commission and Grenadian community groups, featuring the best Grenadian, Caribbean and international cuisine, fresh Grenadian produce and a wide range of stalls and attractions. Live entertainment features steel band, drumming, dancing, carnival costume parade and music by London's top DJs. And for the young ones, bouncy castles, slides, face painting and more. Win a pair of return tickets to Grenada, courtesy of Grenada Tourism Authority and British Airways in the grand raffle draw, and many more prizes. The event for everyone, Grenadian Heritage Day, when the spirit and warmth of the Caribbean comes to the UK.
Welcome back. Consultations continue as Grenada formulates its country program document for submission to the United Nations and the European Union for a 3-year project to eliminate gender-based violence. The Spotlight Initiative is a global multi-year partnership to eliminate all forms of violence by 2030. The consulting team is currently on island, meeting with key stakeholders as the submission deadline of November 2019 draws near. Consultant team member Lisa Perch says the project's success depends on the co-dependence of its 6 pillars, including policies, data, women movement, and prevention. She highlighted the objectives of the project.
The focus is on really ensuring that whatever we do over the next 3 years of the program, that we really can start to ensure that women, girls, boys, and men can live lives free of violence. And we say all of those because we also recognize that often and sometimes perpetrators are themselves former victims of violence. And that the violence that we're talking about and trying to tackle, some of the reasons for its persistence is that it's intergenerational. It has gone on for 3 or 4 generations, and it's a hard cycle to break. We also recognize that it is important to look at what are the drivers and the root causes of that. And so one of the key elements of Spotlight will be looking at tackling some of those fundamental issues. And we also want to look at how we really can engage and we can really tackle this in a life cycle approach.
Social Development Minister Honorable Delma Thomas is optimistic that the Spotlight Initiative will unlock Grenada's potential to create a safe society for all. She said the next step of strengthening various entities to provide the necessary services to the vulnerable is very critical.
Another critical need is the establishment of a system that can coordinate and monitor the different agencies to help them work better together to provide seamless services to victims and their families. Therefore, a critical next step will be strengthening of entities to provide direct services to victims and creating a coordinating mechanism to facilitate the effort.
Grenada is currently the only country in the Eastern Caribbean to receive direct contribution at the country program level. The project will be funded to the tune of €2 million. Finally, the Ministry of Agriculture is strengthening its approach towards maintaining the high economic value of the soursop industry. Soursop has been referred to as Grenada's green gold, as it has been one of the most yielding export crops in the country. Mina Booker tells us about the ministry's efforts to boost the value chain of the fruit.
The Ministry of Agriculture and Lands is currently working on a governance structure for soursop with help coming from the Food and Agriculture Organization, or FAO. Under the FAO-supported project, the ministry held a soursop value chain committee workshop at the National Stadium on July 3rd. The workshop saw the coming together of a value chain coordinating committee, VCCC, with the aim of putting together a working group consisting of sector stakeholders to be the governing body of Grenada's soursop sector. The VCCC consists of soursop farmers, exporters, agro-processors, policymakers, and representatives from agri-trade support services. Grenada's soursop industry has the advantage of being the only country that can export its fresh produce to the United States. Value chain specialist with the FAO's regional office, Brie Romald, explained the significance of the value chain for the soursop industry.
This project, this effort today is really about bringing people together to start the dialogue, because we have a lot of expertise and knowledge in the country, but it's about starting a more coordinated effort to promote and develop the industry to kind of reach the potential that it does have. The workshop today is really to cement or start up a committee, basically, to get people interested, committed, and some momentum behind a strategic action plan that's already been developed under the project but now needs to take flight, basically. And that is really about getting the stakeholders in the industry, farmers, exporters, ministry staff, Ministry of Trade, committed to the plan and working towards implementing some activities that are really going to change the sector.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Elvis Morin, stressed the importance of ownership in keeping Grenada's soursop industry top of mind.
This, and we are grateful that FAO has basically held our hands up to this point to get us to look at enhancing the soursop value chain. It is for us now to do our part, and therefore I challenge what I call the food soldiers in the industry to take this industry serious. We cannot continue to find comfort in the fact that, oh, well, Grenada is the only country that can export the fresh soursop fruit to the US. That is not enough for us to boast or to feel comfortable about. There are many things we need to do to continue to remain relevant in this trade. And that is why it is critical that the ownership, because we need to protect this industry.
Elvis Young, acting CEO of the Marketing and National Importing Board, affirms that his organization is one that is positioned to benefit from the initiative.
I think this is the beginning of the whole objective to set up that governance structure. It is the first meeting. What we're trying to do now is to lay out the framework, get feedback from all the stakeholders, and from that we would start to craft how that structure takes shape. Well, the idea is not necessarily to benefit MNIB. It's a lot of work for MNIB, right? That's what would come with it. The whole idea is some organization need to take control. Given the position of MNIB, the current support that MNIB provide for the industry, the relationship between MNIB and the Ministry of Agriculture, government as a whole, marketing board being a statutory body, our involvement with the providers of grants and other support for agriculture and other industry, we have a direct relationship with those institutions. As a result of that places us in the ideal position to be at the helm of that governance structure.
One of the key stakeholders in this is the Grenada Cooperative Nutmeg Association, or GCNA, whose general manager is Roderick St. Clair.
This session here today is discussing the opportunity for formation of a value chain committee for basically the actors of the source of value chain in Grenada to come together and look towards developing the industry. From where I sit, I was asked, based on my knowledge on the subject, as well as the knowledge of the other boards like the cocoa, nutmeg, and the ordinances, so as to give a perspective on the sort of structure that this committee could take so as to develop it for the actors, but also to look at it in the context of enforceable. So what sort of legislation might be possible so as to make it legal and add a more reliable market opportunity for our farmers, for the exporters, and all the other persons involved, service providers within the soursop industry in Grenada. As you know, soursop, as was showed there, is like the number 3 export crop in Grenada. It's very important and it's growing rapidly. Some of our same cocoa and nutmeg farmers are part of this same initiative so that the whole income can be increased if you have a better industry.
Soursop farmer Carl Duncan, who operates a farm in the Blando, St. Andrew, said such an initiative is beneficial to every soursop farmer.
Well, as a farmer, it's important that we organize, because if we are going to accrue the benefits of the industry, we must have knowledge, we must understand what affects all the parties in the chain, and we must let them know how their actions benefit us or affect us. And it's about information, getting that data and cooperating to benefit the entire industry.
The overall aim of the Soursop Value Chain Committee is to establish a working group that consists of sector stakeholders and technical secretariat for the national soursop sector in order to provide guidance, inputs, and advice on the soursop sector. It would also monitor progress of the strategic work plan of activities to support development of the sector. For the Ministry of Agriculture's Public Relations Unit, I am Mina Booker.
Thank you, Mina. That story just ended the national report for today, Thursday, July 4th. Let's recap the top story. CARICOM's Climate Recovery Resilient Facility received the endorsement of UN Secretary General. On behalf of everyone here at the Government Information Service who made this newscast possible, I am Rakisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Alrighty, folks, he is with us right on the money this morning. Mr. Brian Pitt. He's usually early, but today he's just on the money. Actually, he's about a minute early. However, I'm going to keep him in suspense just a little longer because there are a few comments here from the GIS report. John Bruno says, those within the agricultural sector are not innovative. Why do we have to continue exporting our raw produce when we can look at the more profitable value-added sector? Right on, John. He also goes on to say, and this comment is about the address by the Secretary General of CARICOM earlier on. He says, these Caribbean leaders are full of it. Every day it's empty rhetoric. Nothing substantial has been achieved as it relates to addressing burning issues in the region. And Arthur Langine says, it's just talk and more talk. And about the national report, he says, thank God they're finished. Pele Darbo says, the Grenadian Hermitage Day flag. Pele, I think you meant the Grenada Heritage Day. I think that's what you meant. But he was referring to the way the flag was being held. Very often you see the Grenadian flag flying upside down. Anyway, that's what he was talking about. Pilgrims, let me now turn to our good friend and colleague, Mr. Brian Pitt. See, there he is, Mr. Pitt. Mr. Pitt, good morning, sir.
Good morning, George Grant. How are you?
I am fine. And even though I swore on a stack of Bibles that I would have you on at 9:30, it's now 9:33. Am I forgiven, sir?
Of course you are. I mean, you can do whatever you like. It's your program, George.
Don't say that, sir. Don't.
Gotta make you feel guilty, George.
No. Brian, so my friend, it's been a week since last I saw you. You're still alive. We're happy to see you this morning. What's been happening in your life over the past 7 days or so?
Well, it's been raining. I got wet. My plants are looking bright. The bush in my garden is coming up. So you see, you can't have one without the other. The rain is good, but now I got to get the guys with the lawn mowers and weed whackers to keep the grass down.
You can't win them all, can you?
No, you can't, and that's life.
That's life.
I say people gotta work.
Yeah. At least, it seems like the dry season is now gone and we're settling in. By the way, I was hearing that yesterday and today we would have had a lot of rain, but so far that really hasn't materialized. Yes, we did have some sprinkles, but no big deal.
Mother Nature keeps reminding us, George, who is in charge. You know, we make all kinds of predictions, and then Mother Nature does her own thing. So even with the technology we have today, Mother Nature is still in charge.
And talking about predictions, sir, I did hear from the National Hurricane Center that there are a couple of systems that are expected to come off the African coast anytime now. And so by next week, we could have some soggy weather.
Are our shelters up and running? George, I just had to mention it. Since we brought it the last time, I take it by now they must be up and running.
I don't know. I still have not received the list of shelters, Brian. We're in the month number 2. It's okay. I'll tell you what. Just let us hear that there's a system a couple hundred miles east of here, or maybe 100 miles east of here. You'll have shelters coming out of your nostrils, man.
Well, maybe George, this is a sign for you, you know, that you're not. Maybe the shelters are up and running, and some other radio stations and must have them. But you're the last to get the list.
Well, yeah. That happens too, you know. But Brian, I haven't.
Let's leave that alone.
Let's leave that. Oh, by the way, Margaret says here you've nailed it. I'm not sure what she's talking about. Kipling says the one thing you cannot fault the government for is that they're full of great ideas. Oh yes, but when it comes to implementing them, too many committees, too many cooks spoil the broth. Okay, Brian, let me hear what you got up your sleeve this morning, sir.
George, you know, I live on the lane, so I overlooked Tantine, and last night was the start of the soca preliminaries. Are you aware that's going on, George?
Yes, sir.
So starting last night, I think it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we have to listen to 100 and something
yes, sir.
Prospective soca talent going through a preliminary competition. And I was sitting on my veranda listening to some of that stuff last night, and I'm saying to myself, but you know, the Carnival Committee really don't have any considerations for the paying public. If we have to go to listen to all that stuff and pay $10 or $20 or whatever it was, maybe they can find another way to eliminate the majority of these people, you know, George, rather than having them sing live on a stage.
Yeah.
You know, so again, we're not consumer driven. We don't consider those of us who pay to get good quality production.
Right.
So we just throw everything at us and they expect us to pay and keep coming.
But then,
so for those people who would have experienced last night, I doubt very much if they're going to go back unless there's a particular artist that they want to hear.
You want to bet a lot of them are going to be back because, I mean, they're just conditioned to accept mediocrity, Brian. That's what we've come to.
And that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate, you know. And I listened to Claudette the other day expressing frustration with the fact that Grenadians don't seem to care
and she's
these
right.
days.
She's right.
Yes, and I even every now and then I find myself thinking like her, that Grenadians do not seem to care. They're going about their day-to-day activities, and they really don't care about tomorrow. Mm-hmm. It could be what's happening to the world today. And you know, while I'm saying that, George, I'm thinking that there isn't an opposition voice in Grenada. The opposition seem to be dormant, dead, silent. Mm-hmm. So that it almost seems as though they're waiting for the NNP to lose the next election by default, so they would become the government. So there are all kinds of things happening, and I don't hear. Maybe I'm listening to the wrong stations.
Or maybe they're just not sending the information to you like they're not sending the shelters to me.
Well, no, there are many radio stations in Grenada, and the majority of them play music. And maybe they don't have any money to buy time on some of these stations, but then again, I'm not a politician, so I don't know what makes politicians tick. You know, I believe the NDC made a fundamental error by not appointing an experienced person to the Senate to go along with the youth that they have there. You know, from time to time, we believe that the young people know best what is going to happen, what is good for them for tomorrow. But you know, they need guidance.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
And they need guidance from the more experienced people.
Yes, sir.
You know, I was thinking about this thing about youth and experience and people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. And you know what came to mind, George? Maybe that's because I'm from town. I can leave Lucas Street and get to the Carnage many different ways. There are many different alleys that I can leave Lucas Street to get to the Carnage. If a young person comes from Grenville and don't know what I know about getting from Lucas Street to the Carnage, they probably take the long way around. But if I talk to them and I explain to them how many different alleys there are, they can probably get to the Carnage a lot quicker. They can probably interject, but Mr. Pitch and I can get there quicker than you can. They can either run or they can use a skateboard, but they would have learned how to get there from me. You understand where I'm going with this conversation?
I hear you loud and clear.
You know, so there need to be a marriage between youth and experience. Yes, tomorrow belongs to the youth, but they'll get there a lot easier, a lot safer, and a lot quicker if they have the knowledge of the experienced people in the community. And I believe that the NNP committed a cardinal political sin by not appointing a senior member of the party to the Senate that can provide.
You meant the NDC committed the
NDC, yes, the NDC. I think they have 3 representatives in the Senate, and they did not choose to appoint a senior member of the party to guide the youth that they have in the Senate. And I think that was a big mistake. I don't know what you think, George.
I couldn't agree with you more. And you know, you just said something that really caught my attention, Brian. You said you're talking about the potential of the youth. I totally agree with you. I have been talking with a lot of youth over the last couple of years. And you sit here, man, and you listen to the ideas and the aspirations of these kids, just phenomenal, out of this world. But Brian, when you listen very carefully, you can tell, yes, having ideas is one thing, but they need guidance regarding implementation. They have not been there and done that. It's one thing to have an idea. You got to know what to do with that idea.
What is the quickest and most cost-effective way of getting from point A to point B? And you can only get from point A and point B to point B efficiently by listening to the experience of those people who did that path, who traveled that road. Yeah? The other thing that's bothering me, George, is the silence of the churches and the trade union groups in Grenada.
Hold on, Brian. Before you go in that direction,
yes,
I just want to share a couple of comments here. First of all, Margaret in New York says, no, Brian, you're not hearing from them because they're not saying anything. She's referring to the NDC. She says the NDC is perpetually reactive instead of proactive.
And she's absolutely right. You know, and I don't understand why. But I believe I know why. There isn't good and solid leadership within that party right now. So they're grasping for straws, kind of thing. They're looking for leadership, and they might be looking in the wrong places. But they're very silent, and I don't know if that is good for Grenada.
The only voice I'm actually hearing of late is Claudette Joseph with these NDC heartbeats that she's writing.
Yes, but maybe they gotta get some other people to get out there, and or maybe they should have a convention and appoint a political leader.
Well, maybe that's what they have up their sleeve for later on this year. I don't know. It's only speculation.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope they will do something and do something quickly, because there's a lot of things in this society that need attention. And you and I having this conversation on a Friday morning really don't go the distance as a political party making these comments, because they had almost 40% of the people who voted for them in the last election, who I believe might be waiting to hear from them,
Yeah.
or hear some substantive position on issues from them.
You know, you say waiting to hear from them, Brian. I'm getting the feeling nowadays that some of these people have waited so damn long, they've just given up and said, hey, lost cause. And something I'm hearing a lot of talk about lately is something we've been discussing quite a bit on MEC Chat. The situation we're dealing with here in Grenada is not just localized, it's something that's regional. And people seem to be fed up with this political party system. And I did a tour around the island a couple of days ago with 2 tour operators. We stopped to have lunch at a little restaurant in Grenville. And out of the blue, one of these people brought up the idea of the way governance is set up in the Channel Islands. Apparently, you don't have political parties. They vote for people who are capable of doing a job. Like, let's say, tourism, for example. You want somebody to be, quote, Minister of Tourism. You look around for a number of people who are pretty good in that field, and you pick one, okay? Forget about political parties. And that's how they have a good system of governments out there. Arthur Langine says, good morning, Brian. You are on point about the NDC. See, it's not just you, it's not just me, Brian. A lot of people out there feel the same way. It's coming across, but are they listening?
But you know, if I'm not mistaken, George, our Constitution speaks to representation from the 15 constituencies.
So?
It doesn't speak to political parties.
Exactly.
The political party is our
invention.
Invention. And it has been delayed over time because people have hijacked the system and have abused it over time.
Yeah.
You know, and yes, I agree that people are getting totally fed up with the whole idea of political parties and the direction in which they're going.
Yeah.
Because all they seem to be doing is making decisions about getting reelected. It's not about the long-term economic survival of this country and the Caribbean, for that matter. You know, and unfortunately, these countries are going to suffer in the long run because we are making some bad bilateral decisions with countries that are not truly democratic, who are here to rip off this country, let's be frank. And it doesn't do anything for the average man on the street, man or woman, forgive the word man, I don't want to be taking the task by everybody this morning. Because people are still not making a living wage. I mean, you have all kinds of construction happening in Grenada right now. You have people running lines from pole to pole. And the average wage of the Grenadian, the average Grenadian, is they can't live on it. $700, $800 a month. You can't live on that. You can't get from point A to point B. Yeah? So as a result of that, George, and I'm going to go back to this subject because it's very, very, very important. I keep asking myself, what is the social fallout of the fact that people are not making a proper living wage?
Prostitution is booming.
Prostitution, gambling, but moreover, most of our institutions, the Richmond Hill Prison is overpopulated. The Pink House in the River Road, where we house mentally challenged people, overpopulated. As a matter of fact, it's so overpopulated that there was an incident not too long ago where you had an inmate causing havoc. Yeah? So you have a lot of young people walking the street, searching garbage containers. There's a lot of homelessness in Grenada right now, which leads to squatting in areas that are not occupied. So the social fallout is humongous, and it's getting worse by the day. Now, these should be concerns of the churches.
Let's hear you on the churches, Brian. I can't wait.
And the silence is deafening from the pulpit. You know, and maybe they don't know what to do. Maybe they're scared to do anything. Some people have suggested that there's some monies in the budget for some of them. That's why they're quiet.
Yeah.
But I hate to believe that. I don't want to believe that, because they have a social responsibility to Grenada to make sure that we don't fall off the rails, and that's what we seem to be doing right now. I don't know what we're going to do about all the young people that we have to put behind bars, you know, all the young people that go into that institution in River Road that we don't seem to be able to care for. Because they go in one door, they come out the other door, and they're around town.
John Bruno says, Brian, you're right. We recently signed with Moldova, which is one of the poorest countries in Eastern Europe. Let me ask you a question, Brian. Did you hear Claudette's recent appearance on Grenada Broadcast? She mentioned something about, you know, it's like Grenada is, the term she used is hex. She was suggesting that maybe this country is under a hex. You just brought up the church. You're laughing, Brian. Brian.
No, you know why I'm laughing? At one point in time, remember something called a Baku?
Yes.
Baku was somewhere in the Bolio area. It was alleged that Sir Eric Matthew bought this thing from Guyana to control the population. I mean, there is something wrong. Yes, I agree with Claudette. But it could be the signs of the times. I don't know. It could be social media. That we seem to be getting our news or other people's opinion and believing that is news. And prepared to go along with that. I don't know.
Listen to what...
But a proper mix of young and old people in conversation can probably address that problem. And I think the main opposition party has a lot to do with this.
What opposition party?
Well, the opposition by name and votes. You know. The NDC is the main opposition party. They got 40% of the votes in the last election.
The facade. Okay, Margaret says, the church can no longer act as the nation's conscience because it is too corrupted. As old people say, Satan can't correct sin.
Yeah. And that is unfortunate, isn't it? That is unfortunate. Because you see, as the economy gets worse, people are going to be looking to the churches for help. They have to believe in something. So they have to believe that if they go to church, then somebody will help provide for them. And if they're not getting the right message when they go to that church, they're going to stop believing.
Kipling says, right now, they are bought and paid for, referring to the churches.
You know, it is frustrating, George. Carnival is coming, so we all jump and wave again and take a wine. And then that will be done. And the agony of not being able to provide for our families will continue. We're coming to another school year, and every time I look at young people walking with children, I'm saying to myself, I wonder if they know what they're into. Yeah. Bringing a child through school, through kindergarten, through primary school, through secondary school, and that person might be bright and have ambition, and they want to go to university, and they can't, you know, for whatever reason. And how are they going to explain that to their children?
Frightening. You know, Claudette really threw me for a loop when she mentioned this thing about a hex, because I don't know if people realize how serious that is. But it's not just in the area of tourism or health or what the environment, whatever. It's just it's a cloud that's hanging over this country, and people have become very numb.
And that is my fear, George, because, you know, there's a cloud hanging over the majority of people, yeah? The majority of people are not making ends meet. But there is a minority in this country that's doing very well.
Absolutely.
And they're doing so well that they're flirting the wealth, George. They're actually flirting the fact that they're doing well. they don't even go in the market to find out what's going on down there. But they're doing very well. And don't they have any fear that the majority of people who are not doing well might someday just decide, listen, I've had enough, let me try and do something about that. Yeah? And we'll all go back to having to live in cages with fences and barbed wire and electricals surrounding our houses. I mean, if we continue not to care about the majority of people, it will have a consequence. And we must understand and realize that, George.
Brian,
sorry to bring this this morning.
No, I appreciate it. Old people have a saying, what ain't meet you, ain't pass you. And what you see happening right now, sooner or later, the consequences will have to be paid. It's gonna happen, Brian. It's gonna happen. You and I and a lot of other people out there, just have to be patient. We may not, I'm sure we're not in the majority. We are the minority. But while these folks out there may not be hearing our voices, I do believe that God is.
George, it is, corruption in Grenada is now institutionalized.
Yeah, man.
I was somewhere the other day having a conversation with somebody who openly says, man, get a contract from that man. Come lower your bid and get a contract and give me a spin-off. I have to give you a $5,000 kickback. Now this is a conversation happening in a public place. One guy is telling the other guy to bid lower than whoever else was bidding. He will get the contract. He will subcontract the work to this particular other person. The other person will get paid, and he will give the guy a kickback.
Yeah, man.
I mean, I hold my head and I say, well, wait there. This conversation is happening in public space. As if now the kickback in governance is a given.
Yeah. Sad.
I am listening to the Integrity Commission and the FIU, and I'm saying to myself, what's wrong with these people? Where they're living? They're living here? If I can hear that on the corner, they're not hearing it, but maybe they're not going to the corner. Maybe they should be landing on the corner.
Yeah. Yes.
So if that is institutionalized, it means, George, that the cost of building a road from point A to point B that should be $1,000 is now going to cost $10,000 because a number of people got to get money on the side.
Yeah, man.
And if it's going to cost $10,000, then the taxpayers of this country at some point in time would be indebted for that $10,000. I can't think of a similar example.
Brian?
But Canadians seem to be oblivious to what is happening with the governance in the country.
No, you're not. A lot of us see what's going on, Brian. Sharon here is saying the FIU is corrupt. But there's one comment that I want to leave you with today, Brian, and I think it's very profound. It comes from Margaret. Margaret says, but the reality is that what is happening in Grenada is also happening worldwide. And you know, Brian, she's damn right about that. She is. She goes on to say, the divide between the 1% and the 99% is becoming greater every day. I think in Grenada, because of its size, it's more evident. Food for thought, Brian.
Oh yes, no, that's a given. And let me just say this before I leave, George. I looked at the 4th of July fiasco in the United States yesterday. And President
Are you
Trump,
talking about the fireworks?
And no. I am looking at the Lincoln at the mall, and the people that was on the mall listening to President Trump yesterday.
Okay.
And the faces that I saw on that mall was "Make America White Again." And we are not calling, no, we are seriously not calling this for what it is. America is debating an immigration policy, which is about keeping dark-skinned people out of America and encouraging European Caucasians to America. And if you don't call it out, it's going to get progressively worse. And that is because the average white American feels challenged, that at some point he is losing his country to people that are not his complexion and race. And until and unless America straightens that problem out, we're going to have an increasing problem with the world.
Yes, Brian. Sad note.
Yes.
Sad note.
I hope this evening we'll have some better calypsos in the preliminaries, George. So
How many more nights of this do you have?
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I believe.
Have fun, sir. Have fun.
I will try.
I hope you survive to be able to see us again next week. Thanks a lot, Brian. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you, George. Have a good one yourself.
You too. Mr. Brian Pitt. Folks, it's sad what's happening. It's sad. But I continue to be optimistic. I do believe that the longest rope has an end. You know, God did tell us that we would have trials and tribulations here. What more proof do you need? You thought he was lying? You thought he was faking? The truth. The truth. Trust in him and watch what's going to happen. Sharon says the head of the FIU is politically connected, which is the first rule of the FIU that was broken. Yeah, Sharon. Okay, Pilgrims, Georgie Porgy's going to take a quick little break here, and then we'll come back and wrap it up.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
With free island-wide delivery, Hubbard's Building Supplies and Lumber Departments continue to provide the best quality lumber, steel, tiles, plumbing materials. With free island-wide delivery, Hubbard's Building Supplies and Lumber Departments continue to provide the best quality lumber, steel, tiles, plumbing materials, electrical and general hardware supplies at competitive prices. We continually consult with builders, homeowners and contractors to improve product range and services. Enjoy discounts where applicable, including the use of credit and debit cards. At Hubbard's Building Supplies, Grandance and Lumber Department, Caranage, we offer quality service, affordable prices, giving you the convenient, reliable, free island-wide delivery. Call 440-2087 for all your home improvement and building solutions.
Alrighty, folks, just about time to pull the curtain down, but one final word from the Holy Scriptures. Today's inspirational comes to you from the second book of Corinthians, chapter 4, verses 16, 17, and 18. Therefore, we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. Check it out yourself. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 16 to 18. My dear friends, thank you very much, not just for this morning, but for the whole week. I do wish you and yours a wonderful weekend. I do hope you'll join us here on Sunday morning for that very special that we have coming up. And by God's grace, we'll see you not only on Sunday, but also on Monday for the next edition of Gudday Grenada.